So first of all, I will teach you episiotomy. You have seen episiotomy? Anyone? As you are in a final year class, you have seen delivery, labor delivery, vaginal deliveries. Okay, what is episiotomy? A surgically planned incision on the perineum and the posterior vaginal wall during the second stage of labor. Okay, as I told you, first stage, second stage of labor. What is the second stage of labor? It is a full dilatation of cervix to the expulsion of the baby. So during the expulsion, when the head crown over the vagina, okay, so we give episiotomy. Why we give episiotomy? To support the delivery, to prevent any perineal tear, because perineal tear is more, because clean cut is more better in healing and in suturing as compared to perineal tear, because perineal tear can go to any extent and it cause severe bleeding, PPH, and it is very difficult to heal. So what is the objective of giving episiotomy? As I told you, to enlarge the vaginal introitus, facilitate easy and safe delivery of the fetus, that is spontaneous delivery or manipulative delivery, that is instrumental delivery when we are using forceps or ventouse, when it is a difficult delivery. Okay, to minimize overstretching and rupture of the perineal muscle and fascia, to reduce the stress and strain on the fetal head. Why I am giving the second, as I in the second objective, to reduce the stress and strain on the fetal head. It is more important in case of preterm deliveries, because in preterm deliveries the fetal head is not very matured, it's very soft, and on compression during vaginal delivery it may cause intraventricular hemorrhage. So to preventing that we used to give episiotomy in every preterm. It's more better to give episiotomy in preterm delivery, so to prevent any injury to the fetal head. So what are the indications in elastic or rigid perineum, like in primary patient? Anticipating perineal tear when in a multipara or a second delivery, or a second when the patient have a second delivery or third normal vaginal delivery, but the baby weight is more. So when we were thinking that the perineum is already very laxed in second, third degree and the delivery is very easy, but in case of big size baby it's difficult. So in that also we used to give episiotomy. Operative delivery, that is forceps delivery or ventouse delivery. Okay, previous perineal surgeries, as maybe patient has have any injury in the perineum, accidental injury, history of fall, anything which has caused injury to the perineum, and there is already a stitch. In that case we used to give episiotomy. What are the common indication in threatened perineal injury in primary gravida? As I have told you, rigid perineum. So usually when the head comes, it causes perineal tear, and perineal tear can extend to can go to second degree, third degree or fourth degree. So to avoid that we usually give episiotomy, and episiotomy usually cause first second degree tear. Okay, I will tell you perineal tear after that. Rigid perineum, forceps, breach, occipital posterior phase, these are the most common indications. What is the timing when you give episiotomy? Bulging thin perineum during contraction just prior to crowning, when 3 to 4 centimeter of head is visible. What is crowning? Crowning means when during pushing of the when there is cervix fully dilated, head is on the perineum, and on contraction, after the contraction the head is not going back, that is crowning. Okay, at that time you have to give episiotomy. During forceps delivery, it is made after application of blood. When you in the future when you study, you have to keep in mind also when you opt for ops, that during forceps delivery it is made after the application of blade. Every time you have to first apply the forceps. Before pushing the forceps you have to give episiotomy when it is stretching the perineum. Okay, if done early, the blood loss will be more. Episiotomy, I have told you, it should be given during the crowning of head. Why it is not given early? Because it causes more blood loss. Huh? Baby will not come, but you have already given episiotomy. So what will happen? We always cut the muscles, the blood vessels, so it causes bleeding. If done late, it fails to prevent the invisible laceration of the perineal body. If the head is already coming and you are trying to give episio, but before giving your proper episio, baby will come out and it will cause lacerations in the lateral wall of vagina, or your episio may get extended. What are the types of episiotomy? Median, as it is seen A, that is median. It is from the introitus to perpendicular to the anus, just before the anal, external anus sphincter, above the anus sphincter. Okay. Second is the mediolateral. Third is the J-shaped, and fourth is the lateral. It is not given in this picture. So it in this picture you have seen, this is an operating scissor, but this is not an episiotomy scissor. It is a normal scissor, cutting scissor. Okay, tissue cutting scissor, but it's not an episiotomy scissor. Okay, fetal head is crowning, vaginal opening. This is the midline episiotomy, and this is the mediolateral. Always remember, mediolateral is started from the fourchette and goes 45 degree, but in the lateral the incision is given not from the fourchette but lateral to the fourchette and going 45 degree. Lateral is not usually do now. What are the advantages of giving episiotomy? Maternal, a clear and controlled incision is easy to repair and heals better. Reduction in the duration of second stage. Reduce the trauma to muscles. Fetal, it minimizes intracranial injuries. What are the types? As I have told you, mediolateral, the incision is made downward and outward from the midpoint of the fourchette, either to the right or the left. Okay, it is directed diagonally in a straight line which run about 2.5 centimeter away from the anus. It is 45 degree. Okay, it is started from the fourchette and the angle should be 45 degree. This is mediolateral. Median, the incision commences from the center of the fourchette and extend posteriorly along the midline for about 2.5 centimeter. Lateral, the incision starts from about 1 centimeter away from the fourchette. As I told you, lateral is lateral, that is not started from the fourchette, and it extends laterally. It has got many drawbacks, including chance of injury to the Bartholin drug. It is totally condemned. Lateral is not used now. Why? As it is causes, it is written, it causes injury to the Bartholin drug, but also after stitching, after repairing the episiotomy, it causes constriction. Stitch contracture हो जाता है. So contracture, it causes dyspareunia to the patient. J-shaped, the incision. What is dyspareunia? Dyspareunia, that is pain during coitus. Okay, because of the structure it made. J-shaped, the incision begin in the center of the fourchette and is directed posteriorly along the midline for about 1.5 centimeter and then directed downward and outward along 5 to 7 o'clock position to avoid the anal sphincter. A position is not perfect, the repair wound tend to be puckered. J-shaped is also not used. Usually we in the previously obstetrician used to give J-shape, but what happened when you are not able to give proper perineal support, even in case of episiotomy, it get extend to the anus. So even in J-shape, the risk of 4th degree perineal tear is more, and also the wound healing is not good. So most commonly midline and mediolateral is used. Midline is also abundant now. Usually mediolateral is only used. What are the merits and demerits? Surgical repair is easy in case of midline, but in mediolateral is more difficult because after giving episiotomy the muscles get retracted and it's not very easy to make the cosmetically mediolateral. Everybody have not very good skill. So in case of early learners, midline is more better, but it's not used now as the risk of turning to 4th degree is more in midline. 4th degree perineal tear. Faulty healing is rare in midline because why it is? Because in the vessels are in between. In the midline the vessels are good, so after repairing the healing is more better because of more blood vessels. And mediolateral is faulty healing, the healing is not good, and the secondary healing that is scar formation is more in case of mediolateral. Post-operative pain, it is minimal in midline and more common in mediolateral. Why it is more common in mediolateral? As you are giving 45-degree incision, so the muscles get retracted, and you are, when you stitch it, repair the episiotomy, and it causes, when the patient sit or stand, it got stretch, the muscles get more stretching is more common. So post-operative pain is more in case of mediolateral. On standing, on sitting, or even on walking, the pain is more in case of mediolateral, not in midline. Anatomical results are excellent, as I told you. Cosmetically it's more better, but because the complications in midline is more, just only because that it is not used. Mediolateral is more common. Occasionally faulty anatomical reason. Why? Because of the because not a good approximation of the muscles and the skin. As it is lateral, it's the shape is lateral, so approximation, everybody is not able to, who have not very good skill in operative, they will not give a very good cosmetic what I will say, not give a very good cosmetic appearance to the heel, to the stitch part, to the repaired episiotomy, so anatomically it occasionally got faulty. If you have any confusion, then tell me. Blood loss is less in midline and blood loss is more in mediolateral. Dyspareunia is rare in midline and occasional mediolateral. It's more in lateral, it's less in mediolateral, and it's rare in midline. Okay, because of the scarring is less in case of midline. Extension is common. As I told you, extension is common. It usually midline is extended to 4-degree perineal tear, and mediolateral is very uncommon because it's very distant from the anus. But the complication rate of midline is so high that everybody is now abandoning it. Actually, nobody is using now. In every medical colleges or even a private setup, nobody is using midline. It's a surgeon choice maybe that they use midline. Otherwise, nobody is using. Mediolateral is now the most common episiotomy type we use. So for the steps, first preliminary, the perineum is thoroughly swept with the, how you will give episiotomy. First, the perineum is thoroughly swept with antiseptic iodine solution and draped properly. When you have seen that patient is in labor, you have done vaginal examination, seen that baby head is coming down and it is crowning the head is crowning the perineum. Then what you will do? You will first do painting and draping, painting with iodine and draping. Give a local anesthesia at forceps. 1% solution of lignocaine, make it 10 ml, and the perineum in the line of proposed incision. What you are using? You are giving midline or mediolateral. In that case, you have to give lignocaine. Then you have to give incision. 2 fingers are how you will give incision. 2 fingers are placed in the vagina between the presenting part and the posterior vaginal wall. The incision is made by curved or straight, blunt, pointed, sharp scissor. One blade of which is placed inside in between the fingers and the posterior vaginal wall, and the other on the skin. See, this is the head of the. This is the vagina, and the head is below the scissors. This is the episiotomy scissor. Okay, it has an angle of 45 degree. So when you have to put 2 fingers between the perineum and the head. Okay, then what you have given? This is the midline and this is the mediolateral. Okay, if you want to give midline, then you have to infiltrate with lignocaine with a 10 ml syringe perpendicular up to the 2.5 centimeter in the perineal body. Okay, if you are giving the mediolateral, then you have to infiltrate the lignocaine in the 45 degree. How you get infiltrate? By inserting the needle on the forceps, insert up to the 2.5 centimeter. Okay, after inserting the needle, first push back to see any blood. If there is no blood, then you have to insert the lignocaine and come back up to the forceps. Then by infiltrating, you have to give incision at this 45 degree. What is very important, the index finger should be in between the head and the perineum. Okay, why? To prevent injury to the head. Okay. So the incision is made by curved or straight blunt pointed sharp scissors, one blade of which is placed inside in between the fingers and the posterior vaginal wall and the other on the skin. The incision should be made at the height of any uterine contraction. This is very important when you have to give episiotomy. When there is a contractions and head is crowning, that is the patient is bearing down, it causes thinning of the skin and causes less pain to the patient, less bleeding. The incision should be made at the height of any uterine contraction. When an accurate idea of the extent of incision can be better judged from the stretched perineum. One thing. Second, it causes less pain to the patient also, and it causes less bleeding. Deliberate cut should be made starting from the center of the fourchette, extending laterally either to the right or to the left. That is your choice. Usually right is given. It is directed diagonally in a straight line which runs about 2.5 cm from the anus. The incision ought to be adequate to serve the purpose for which it is needed. That is why you are giving episiotomy. You are giving to prevent perineal laceration, and in case of forced delivery, because when you are doing an instrumental delivering without giving episiotomy, it causes so much of laceration, it can extend up to the uterus. So pelvic wall. Okay, so the incision ought to be adequate to serve the purpose for which it is needed. The bleeding is usually not sufficient to use artery forceps unless the operation is done too early or the perineum is thick. As I have told you, the perineum is thick, the bleeding is more. When you are giving episiotomy in a crowning of head, the skin and the muscles get very thin, and when you give this incision at that time, the bleeding is less. So the bleeding is usually not sufficient to use artery forceps unless artery forceps are used to catch the bleeding vessels in the muscles. Okay. So what are the structures cut during episiotomy? Posterior vaginal wall, superficial and deep transverse perineal muscles, bulbospongius and part of levator ani, fascia which covering these muscles, transverse perineal branches of pudendal vessels and nerves, subcutaneous tissue and skin. So in this picture, as you see, this is the vagina, this is the vagina, this is the fourchette, okay, this is anus. So when we are giving episiotomy mediolateral, what structure you are cutting? You are incising from the fourchette 45 degree up to the 45 degree. What I have told you, 45 degree. Okay. Puborectalis muscle is a muscle in levator ani. It's a part of levator ani. Okay. So what are the structures cut in this procedure? See. This is posterior vaginal wall. This is the bulbocavernous muscle. This is the transverse perineal muscle. Transverse perineal muscle have two superficial and deep perineal muscles. Okay, this is the superficial. As you see, this is superficial, and behind this is deep perineal muscle. So cut our bulbocavernous muscle, deep transverse perineal muscle, and puborectalis muscle. Puborectalis muscle is a part of levator muscle. Okay, so these are the muscles which cut during episiotomy. What are the branches which are cut during episiotomy? The pictures is not very clear, but as you see, this is the crowning of head. So when you are giving 45 degree, the superficial transverse perineal muscles are there. This is the pudendal internal pudendal artery. The branches of these internal pudendal arteries are cut during episiotomy. Okay, and pudendal nerve. This is the branches of pudendal nerve. These are cut when you are going laterally. This is the nerves and this is the vessels. So the nerves are also here. So when you are giving episiotomy from here, from 45 degree and mediolateral, the branches, not the main branch of pudendal artery, but the branches of pudendal artery and the pudendal nerve will cut. So timing of repair, the repair is done soon after expulsion of placenta. When you repair now, after the delivery of the baby and delivery of the placenta, you have to repair the episiotomy. So the repair is done soon after expulsion of the placenta. If repair is done prior to that, disruption of the wound is inevitable. If subsequent manual removal or exploration of the genital tract is needed, if you given before removal of placenta, if you repair the episio, what will happen? Sometimes placenta will come expelled out spontaneously, sometimes it will not come. Then what you will do? You do exploration. When you explore the uterus and remove the placenta manually, then this episiotomy suture will tear out. So after expulsion of placenta, see for prevention of PPH, uterine contracted muscles, uterus will be contracted properly. See for any other perineal tear, then you will suture the episiotomy. Repair is done prior to that. Dispersion of the wound is inevitable. Oozing during this period should be controlled by pressure with a sterile gauze swab and bleeding by the artery forceps. If during the after the delivery of baby, usually placenta will deliver within 30 minutes. So in 15 minutes we have to wait maximum 30 minutes. So if at that time what you will do, you have to put the gauze swab over the episiotomy clean cut area to prevent bleeding. If there is a arterial bleeding, it's very excessive bleeding there, then use artery forceps. Early repair prevents sepsis and eliminate the patient's prolonged apprehension of stitches. Early repair prevents sepsis, yes, as you have to stitch the episiotomy immediately. It's more important, because if you leave it there only, then it causes sepsis, it causes infection in the open wound areas. It's an open wound actually. So in the open wound area, infection will happen. So you have to immediately repair it. Repair step, how first lithotomy position, as patient is already in a lithotomy position, patient is on as delivered at that time. A good light source is very important. The main thing is good light source is very important. Clean with antiseptic solution. Blood clots are removed from the vagina and the wound area. The patient is draped properly, and repair should be done under strict aseptic precaution. You have to be sterilized yourself first. Before that, wash your hand properly with all the 6 steps. Then use the sterilized gloves, and use drapes, sterilize all sterile drapes and sterile sutures to prevent sepsis. If the repair field is obscured by oozing of blood from above, a vaginal pack may be inserted and is placed higher. Usually everybody used to do, they insert vaginal pack inside and push the cervix up, so that the bleeding during the suturing blood will not ooze out. So the repairing will be fast. Repair is done in 3 layers. What is the principle to repair? Perfect hemostasis, to obliterate the dead space, and suture without any tension. Suture without any tension is very important, because after the suturing, patient will complain of severe pain in the perineum. She is not able to walk, not able to sit. Okay, and as I told you, dyspareunia after the healing. The repair is to be done in the following orders: vaginal mucosa and submucosal tissue, perineal muscles, skin and subcutaneous tissue. See, in this layer, this is the, first of all, this is the vaginal mucosa. As you see, this is what is this. This is the anterior vaginal wall. This is the posterior vaginal wall. After the delivery. See, okay. So this is the vaginal mucosa. What is stitching? See here, the first apex is hold with any artery, and apex is stitched, and the suture is hold with the artery forceps. Then vaginal mucosa is stitched. After stitching vaginal mucosa up to the fourchette, see, up to the fourchette, the vaginal mucosa is stitched in a continuous suture, okay, without any interlocking, because interlocking cause puckering, and after healing it cause pucker and cause pain to the patient. So vaginal mucosa is always sutured in a continuous. What suture is used? Delayed absorbable, like Vicryl or catgut. Absorbable or delayed absorbable, both can be used. In muscles, intermittent sutures are used. See, this is continuous and this is intermittent sutures are used. Muscles, okay. Only approximation we use. What you have to do, only approximation of muscle is very important. Don't do very tight suturing, so this is what I am telling about, suturing without tension, so because it may cause so much pain to the patient. And after that, third is the skin. The vaginal mucosa is sutured first. The first suture is placed at or just above the apex of the tear. That is very important. Why it is very important? because if you left the apex, then bleeding, maybe the bleeding will be there, the bleeding may come from there, and even after suturing the patient will bleed from the episiotomy site. So every time the apex, the first suture should be taken above the apex, at or above, usually taken above the, to take more precautions, take above the apex of the tear. Thereafter the vaginal walls are opposed by interrupted sutures with polyglycolic acid suture, that is Dexon, or that is proline what I'm saying, Vicryl, okay, or number 0 chromic catgut from above downward till the fourchette is reached. The suture should include the deep tissue to obliterate the dead space. That is very important. If you left the deep tissue, if you left the dead space, this is the site for infection, sepsis, pus collection. Okay, so every time when you suture the vaginal wall, posterior vaginal wall, you have to see there should be no deep spaces, cut deep spaces. You have to obliterate. If it is very deep, okay, what I'm saying, sometimes the tear is very deep, not 4 degree, but it's very deep inside. So in that case, first you have to obliterate the dead space, then you have to take the vaginal mucosa. A continuous suture may cause puckering and shortening of the posterior vaginal wall. Continuous suture we have to take, but not tense, very tense. Okay, care should be taken not to injure the rectum. Post-operative care, dressing, comfort, Maxell dressing we used to give, or infrared heat or ice pack. It's all type, not necessary ki you have to use every method. You can use Maxell dressing, or you can use infrared heat, or you can ice pack, or you can give only analgesics. Ambulation is very important, and discharge. Previously, now actually discharge, because we are using absorbable sutures, so you don't have to do anything. You just have to follow up the patient after delivery. You have to discharge the patient and ask her to come for follow-up for re-examine the sutures for any infection or sepsis at that site, or any pus collection, or a proper healing is there or not. Okay, for that you have to call the patient for follow-up. What are the immediate complications? Extension of the incision to involve the rectum. Immediate extension of the incision to involve the rectum, in vulval hematoma, infection, throbbing pain on the perineum, rise in temperature. How will you diagnose it, the infection? Or there is a throbbing pain in the perineum, patient have a fever, wound area look moist, red and swollen, offensive discharge. It immediate complication within 48 hours. Okay, treatment to facilitate drainage of pus, local dressing with antiseptic. How you will do? Facilitate the drainage of pus, local dressing with antiseptic powder or ointment, Maxell compression or application of infrared heat to the area to reduce edema and pain, and systematic antibiotic. You have to give all that symptomatic treatment to the patient. If there is a pus, you have to drain it. If there is you think this is swollen, edematous, fever, high fever, you have to start antibiotics and use Maxell dressing. And you also give analgesics and anti-inflammatory also to decrease the pain and inflammation at that site. Wound dehiscence is an immediate complication. Wound dehiscence, injury to anus sphincter causing incontinence of bladder or feces, rectovaginal fistulas. Rarely necrotizing fasciitis. Rectovaginal fistula is a late complication. Necrotizing fasciitis in a woman who is diabetic or immunocompromised. Remote complication is rectovaginal fistula also. Dyspareunia, chance of perineal laceration, subsequent labor, and scar endometriosis. Okay. This is complete the episiotomy. If you have any, you have to ask something, you have any question on this topic, you can write me in messages. Otherwise, I will start perineal tear. What questions you have? They will ask you about perineal in episiotomy is what are the layers which cut during episiotomy. They will ask you that. What are the structures cut during perineal during episiotomy? They will ask you one. Okay, and what are the post-operative care? And okay, type of maybe, but most commonly asked question is what are the structures cut during episiotomy? Okay. So perineal tear. I'm starting perineal tear. You have anybody have any doubts? I'm seeing the chatting if anybody's writing something. Okay. So perineal tear. What is perineal tear? I told you in when we are giving episiotomy, why you are giving episiotomy to prevent perineal tear. So perineal tear is a laceration of perineum. It's the result of overstretching or too rapid stretching of the tissue, especially if they are poorly extensile and rigid. Perineal injuries are more common in primary gravida than multigravida. As I told you, primary gravida is rigid perineum, so chances of perineal tear is more in that. Lacerations of perineum, it is irregular lacerations, not a clean cut. What are the causes? Obstetric cause and non-obstetric causes. Obstetric causes, malpresentation such as breast presentation, contracted pelvic outlet, prolonged labor, operative vaginal deliveries, macrosomic babies, occipito-posterior delivery, or precipitate labor. What happens in precipitate labor? Patient normally the time limit of in a primary is 12 hours for the normal delivery from first to second to the delivery of the baby, but in precipitated labor it cuts short to half. Within 6 hours she will deliver. So the procedure, the progress is so fast and the expression is so fast that it causes perineal tear. The muscles not get properly relaxed. Epidural analgesia, induction of labor, and rigid perineum. Non-obstructed cases, rape, in case of rape, molestation, fall, accidental injuries like road traffic accident, bullhorn injuries. So RCOG classification of perineal tear, it is divided into 4 degrees. First degree is injury to the perineal skin only. Second degree, injury to the perineum involving perineal muscles but not involving the anal sphincters. Third degree is injury to perineum involving the anal sphincter complex. It is 2 types. Less than 50% of external, I am telling about external anal sphincter, thickness torn. 3B is more than 50% of external sphincter thickness torn, and 3 is both external and internal is torn. 4 degree is when it involving the perineum involving the anal sphincter complex, that is external. See, it is only it is in 3rd degree, it is only torn, not completely teared. See, internal anal sphincter is torn but not completely teared. That is very important. Okay. In 4th degree, injury to a perineum involving the anal sphincter complex, external anal sphincter and internal anal sphincter, and anal epithelium. That is very important. Anal epithelium is teared or injured. First degree perineal tear involve the fourchette. What is first, second, third degree? Involving the fourchette, perineal skin, vaginal mucosa, membrane but not underlying fascia and muscle. These include periurethral laceration. So first degree perineum में periurethral laceration. सच periurethral laceration मतलब यूरेथ्रा के लेटरली कोई भी इंजुरी अगर होती है ना, यूरेथ्रा के लेटरली अगर कोई भी पेरीयूरेथ्रल एरिया में अगर कुछ भी इंजुरी होती है, सम टाइम when in a normal delivery we are have to give a proper perineal support. Where you give perineal support? You give perineal support with your palm at the perineal body and anal part. You have to give perineal support to prevent perineal tear. But sometimes when you give a, sometimes what happen, the head come with extension, so it causes urethral injury also, periurethral injury. So when the baby come with extension, we are giving support, proper support in the perineum area, but as there is no space, the head will cause injury to the urethral part, periurethral, that is periurethral lacerations. In second degree perineal tear involve in addition the fascia and muscles of the perineal body but not the anal sphincters. These tears usually extend upward on one or both sides of vagina, forming irregular triangular injuries. Third degree perineal tear is extend further to involve the anal sphincter and rectum mucosa to exposite lumen. Fourth degree actually it is anal epithelium, anal mucosa, and involve the anal sphincter, and in involve anal sphincter मतलब complete external anal sphincter and only tear, only torn, not complete internal anal sphincter will not go in third degree. If incomplete internal anal sphincter is there, then it is a fourth degree. So as you see, first degree tear involve the skin, This is the episiotomy, normal episiotomy. Okay. No, this is episiotomy. So this is only the skin will go. In case of second degree, the skin and muscle will go. In third degree, skin, muscle and external anus sphincter here. This is internal, this is external. External anus sphincter will go. In fourth degree, skin, muscle, external, internal and anal mucosa will go. है ना? As you see in this, it is a third degree. See bulbocavernous, this is a mucosa. Mucosa. ठीक है, this is a muscles, bulbocavernous muscle and transverse perineal muscle, and this is external anus sphincter. Stare up to this. So it's the third degree. As I see in this case, bulbocavernous, the muscles will go, and the mucosa and the anal mucosa. The lumen is, you can see the lumen of the anal rectal mucosa. Sorry, you can see the rectal mucosa. This is the rectum. So this is, you can see in the opening of the lumen. ठीक है, internal, it is the internal anal sphincter. This is the external anal sphincter. As you see in the diagram also, I am showing you diagram so that you can understand this properly. It's not very easy to understand the perineal tear without seeing it. So as you have seen, this is the vaginal mucosa, this is the transverse perineal muscle, this is the rectal mucosa, and this is, okay, this here, this should be the external anus sphincters. So how to recognize it? Put the patient in extended lithotomy position, arrange proper spotless bright light. Vulva should be examined stepwise right from the clitoris to the anus downward, laterally, paraclitoral, paraurethral and paravaginal. Lateral, that everything which is lateral to the vagina, to the urethra, to the clitoris is the paraclitoral, paraurethral, paravaginal and pararectal skin. And muscles in every case after delivery. Perineal tear may be associated with high vaginal circular tear and tear in the fornices and the cervix. This is, I had to do first, second, third degree is the perineal tear is the perineum. Sometimes it extends upward, up to the fornices. What is the fornices? It is the part between the fornix is the posterior vaginal wall which touches the cervix, that is the posterior fornices. Where the cervix and the posterior vaginal wall meet, that is the posterior fornices. So sometimes it extends up to the posterior fornices, okay, and extend up to the cervix. Cervix can be injured. One should suspect traumatic PPH due to perineal tear when continuous bleeding per vaginum persisting even after delivery of placenta. When uterus is contracted and retracted, when you suspect that there is risk of actually it is cervical tear. Perineal tear you can see visibly, but in case of cervical tear, when you think about it as a cervical tear, when there is a PPH, excessive bleeding is coming out, uterus is completely contracted and retracted, then you think about the traumatic PPH. Then you have to explore the vagina. How you will explore the vagina? With a good light source. We have to put the speculum inside, hold the cervix and see for any trauma in the cervix and in the lateral vaginal walls. Okay, sometimes the injury is not very visible. You have to put the speculum and hold the cervix, then only you can see. Perineal tear first and second degree and episiotomy induced second degree is should be repaired immediately after delivery of the placenta, if not possible within 24-hour delivery. First step is to define the limit of the laceration, which include vagina as well as perineum. Proper light with good exposure, good analgesia is very important. Good assistance. Prefer the blunt needle. What are the prerequisites before repairing the perineal tear? There should be chromic or vicryl 20 or 10. Blunt needle, not that actually you will not understand blunt or sharp needle. Blunt needle is usually used for suturing, because if you use sharp needle it causes injury and causes more bleeding, so that's why it is written blunt needles. Technique: all tears that are bleeding should be identified and ligated separately. Before repairing the perineal tear, you have to see for the lateral vaginal wall any other lacerations are there. If there, then you have to ligate and suture it properly. The stitching starts from the apex of vaginal mucosa using vicryl. Stitch with continuous or interrupted stitcher. The muscles are stitched using the same stitch, taking full thickness of muscle and achieving hemostasis. Always use muscles stitched in intermittent sutures. The skin is stitched with interrupted suture also, है ना. So interrupted sutures in skin and muscle, contents are interrupted in mucosa. 3rd and 4th degree repair. Obstetrical anal sphincter injuries. What are the written? If there is a anal sphincter injury, that is 4th and 3rd. In 3rd also there is internal anal sphincter torn and external anal sphincter is gone. So why it is written consent? Because written consent is because there is risk of fistula in this case. So you have to, before as you are using anesthesia, because it's very painful, so you have to use general anesthesia, spinal anesthesia, or epidural anesthesia in 3rd and 4th degree. You have to take the consent for any aesthetic complications or any operative procedure complications like bleeding, blood loss. Okay, then operation, trained obstetrician, good light, good assistant, proper instruments and sutures. According to RCOG guideline, we have to, in 3rd and 4th degree, we have to repair within 24 hours. If repair is not done more than 24 hours, then repair is done after 6 weeks. At 6 weeks, 6 weeks completed. Okay. Why it is written? Because if it is an institutional delivery and 4th degree tear has happened, then it can be immediately repaired. We can shift the patient to the OT, take all the proper consent and suture it. But if the patient is referred from somewhere in the periphery with a 4th degree perineal tear, and it's already happened for 2 days back, then what you will do? You don't have to touch the tear. You don't have to touch it. Only you have to do what? You have to give, you have to properly wash it, clean it, give betadine and all the antiseptics to the antibiotic, and tell the patient to come after 6 weeks. Even it causes anal incontinence to the patient, even then we are not able to, because already there is an infection. The risk of failed suture repair is more if you will do repair after 24 hours, because the infection rate is very high, and in that case, in that septic area and the septic area, okay, because already infected, that part is already infected, patient has maybe have passed motion and everything. So in that case, if you repair the 3rd and 4th degree, usually 4th degree, then the risk of scarred is suture failure, proper stitching failure is more, and patient may have anal incontinence or anal fistula. As accurate and approximation is possible of all the tissue should be secured and no dead space are left. So surgical strategy is what? Identification of additional birth injuries. What you will do when there is a perineal injury? The patient has referred from somewhere with so much of perineal injury and perineal. What you will do? For identification of additional birth injuries and exact classification of the perineal tear by means of speculum inspection and distal rectal examination. That is very important. When you do perineal, when you put the speculum, see for the lateral vaginal wall, see for the cervix, and see the posterior vaginal wall. How you will do? You put the speculum inside and come downward. Come downward with speculum. To see layer by layer with the lateral vaginal wall, both side, and the posterior vaginal wall, to see for any lacerations. So sometimes it's not necessary that laceration should only be seen in the lower part. It may be in the upper vaginal part. So you have to see and stitch it properly and do parietal examination to rule out any sphincter tear, if it is external anal sphincter or internal sphincter or anal mucosa injury. When you do parietal examination, you can properly see for the injuries, because if the external sphincter has gone, you feel the tightness of anal sphincter is gone. Okay. If necessary, first management of cervical and high vaginal tear from top to down, and then management of the perineal tear is done. Okay. If necessary, first manage high vaginal tear. Initially you have to stitch and manage the cervical tear and high vaginal tear. After that, the perineal tear. For 4th degree tear, repair anorectal epithelium with 4th degree tear में क्या करते हैं? First we will repair the anal epithelium, that is anorectal epithelium, with atraumatic that is blunt needle with the 3-0 end-to-end suture. End-to-end suture. There should be no overlapping of the mucosa. It causes puckering and scarring. So it should be end-to-end. Okay, by 3-0. If the edge of the torn internal anus sphincter can be identified, approximate the edges with atraumatic interrupted mattress suture, preferably 3-0. Identification of the edges of the external anus sphincter muscles and gripping them with Alice clamp. I will show you okay, I have not put the pictures. Okay. If the edges of the torn internal anus sphincter can be identified, approximate the edges with atraumatic interrupted mattress sutures, preferably 3-0. ठीक है. Identification of the edges of the external sphincter and gripping them with Alice clamp. Suture of the external anus sphincter muscle with atraumatic U sutures, preferably with a thread size 2-0. Two methods: overlapping technique and the end-to-end technique. Okay. When obstetric anus sphincter repair are being performed, the burring of surgical knot beneath the superficial perineal muscle is recommended to minimize the risk of knot and suture migration to the skin. When anus sphincter repair is done, the sutures are usually inside the perineal muscle. Okay, not to be above the vaginal mucosa. It causes pain to the patient. Layer by layer management of the perineum. Internal sphincter and external sphincters can be sutured by overlapping technique or by end-to-end technique. Okay, sometimes it's very difficult to do end-to-end technique because when it gets teared, it gets retracted. Anus sphincters got retracted, it's difficult to identify them. First you have to identify where is the sphincters. Okay, by doing the rectal examination, see for the taut sphincters, then hold it with Alice forceps, then approximate in between, approximate from both sides and do the stitching. So sometimes end-to-end is very difficult and overlapping is more easy. Post-operative management, use of broad spectrum antibiotic is recommended following repair of obstetric anus sphincter to reduce the risk of post-operative infection and wound adhesions. Post-operative laxatives, what you will give when there is a 4-degree perineal tear, you have to give broad spectrum antibiotics, you have to give laxatives, so to prevent tight stools, so it may cause tearing of the sutures. Sitz bath for proper healing, it increases the healing. Analgesics for pain, bulking agent should not be given with laxative. Physiotherapy and pelvic floor exercises for 6 to 12 weeks after the repair. So pelvic exercises, it helps to taut the muscles. How will you do follow-up? History of symptoms of anal incontinence है कि नहीं. You have to ask for any anal incontinence, inspection of the perineum, see for the sutures, and you can do per-rectum examination to see for the tightening of the sphincters. Vaginal and rectal palpation, information, that what in per-rectal examination, information about a possibly long latency onset or worsening of the symptoms of anal incontinence. Discussion regarding subsequent pregnancies and births. If patient is experiencing incontinence or pain on follow-up, refer to a special gynecologist or colorectal surgeon, and anorectal manometer should be considered. If a patient is complaining of incontinence or pain on after passing motion, then you have to do anorectal manometry. In that case, you will see for the muscles strength. You have to see for the muscle strength, contractions, it's proper or not. Okay. Or otherwise, you have to send for the second repair, colorectal surgeon. You have to send her for the second repair. If there is an incontinence, then we again do the operative procedure, find out the internal sphincters tightening. For recommendation for subsequent deliveries, should be counseled about the risk of developing anal incontinence or worsening symptom with subsequent vaginal delivery. So no evidence to support the role of prophylactic episiotomy in subsequent. If it is a 4th degree tear, you have to take the patient for elective cesarean section. That is the indication. Okay, any elective cesarean section should be offered to all women who have previously suffered from 3rd or 4th degree perineal tear, and especially to those patients with persistent fecal incontinence, reduced sphincter function, or suspected fetal macrosomia. Actually, now it is indicated. It is one of the indication for cesarean section is the 4th degree, not third. 4th degree perineal tear is the direct indication for the C section. What are the sequelae of static perineal laceration? Chronic perineal pain, dyspareunia, urinary and fecal incontinence. How you will prevent perineal tear? Liberal use of episiotomy, proper conduct of labor during second stage, perineal support during the second stage. If you are not giving proper perineal support, even after giving episiotomy, there is perineal lacerations. Perineal tear, that is, it can extend to 3rd and 4th degree. Okay. So the last topic is injury to the genital tract. Injuries of the genital tract. Maternal injuries following childbirth process are quite common. So injury to the genital tract cover every part of the genital. Perineum, that's a vulva. First of all, vulva lacerations may happen. Paraurethral tear, as I told you, paraurethral tear can happen during normal delivery. In perineum, perineal injuries, vulval injuries is laceration. Lacerations usually happen during operative delivery, instrumental delivery, and repeated PV examination, repeated vaginal examination. When usually it happens in periphery. The patient refer with obstructed labor, they have so much of vulval lacerations. Why? Because they have done so much of repeated vaginal examination that it get edematous and lacerated. When you touch it, you will see that there are so much of cuts over the vulva because of the improper vaginal examination. Okay. Paraurethral tears happen during normal delivery. It happens if you are not giving proper support from above and downward. So perineum incidence is 1%. What are the causes for perineal injuries? Overstretching and rapid stretching. Rapid stretching, that is precipitate labor, what I have told you. Rapid stretching means in a forceps or venous delivery, when you are doing a forceful pulling of the head. Okay. Prevention, proper conduct in second stage, taking due care of perineum. What are the risk factor for 3rd degree perineal tear? Baby weight. When it is a big size baby, macrosomia, more than 3 kg. 3 kg is normal actually, more than 3. In Indian ideology, we can say that in Indians, the average weight of baby is 2.8 to 3 kg. So, chances of injuries more. Nulliparity, that is rigid perineum. Outlet contractions, when outlet is very contracted, in that case also, the baby will not come out, and it will cause severe perineal injuries to come out, to push the baby out. Narrow pubic arch, it also come in outlet contraction. Shoulder dystocia, forceps delivery, scar in the perineum, perineorrhaphy, or scar in the perineum in the second, if it is a second vaginal delivery or 3rd vaginal delivery and the episiotomy is given and it's scarred. Sometimes in episiotomy, when repair, even after episiotomy repair, it causes episiotomy dehiscence, as I told you in the complication. So what happened in the episiotomy dehiscence? The healing will happen, but it's a 2nd degree healing. It's a thick fibrosis of the perineum will happen, and in that case, if the patient will deliver again, the scar will get ruptured and extend to 3rd and 4th degree. Phase 2 pubic delivery, midline episiotomy, and precipitate labor. Midline 3rd and 4th degree will go in midline episiotomy, as I told you, it's one of the complications of midline. How you will manage the perineal injury? Repaired immediately following the delivery of placenta. Recent अगर tear है तो, delayed beyond 24 है तो antibiotic and complete tear should be repaired after 3 months. If delayed beyond 24, 6 weeks actually. Okay. Repair of complete perineal tear. Step 1 is lithotomy position, repair done with local infiltration or lignocaine hydrochloride. Local infiltration with lignocaine hydrochloride. Step 2, rectal and anal mucosa. Rectal muscles including the pararectal fascia. Torn end of the sphincter ana external, as I told you. अभी तो बताया मैंने, है ना. Repair of perineum muscle done by interrupted suture, vaginal wall, perineum post by interrupted sutures. आफ्टर केयर क्या है ये भी बताया मैंने. लो रेसिडुअल डाइट पे रखना है. टू फेलाई क्या मतलब उसको टाइट मोशंस नहीं होने चाहिए, तो लेक्टोलोज देना है, टेमल ब्रॉड स्पेक्ट्रम एंटीबायोटिक देना है और साथ में एंटीबायोटिक स्टार्ट करना है, फिजियोथेरेपी देनी है, पेल्विक फ्लोर एक्सरसाइजेस समझाना है और 6 to 12 वीक्स पोस्ट पार्ट उसको फॉलोअप में रखना है ना, ये मेन है. और एब्सटिनेंस के लिए एडवाइस करना है कि 12 वीक्स तक, आई थिंक 3 months तक abstinence, avoid coitus, we have to advise him. Need to have institutional delivery in the future delivery. Plan for future delivery. Need to have institutional delivery. Woman having symptom or with abdominal, endoanal, USG or manometry should be delivered. Any patient with the 4th degree should go for a cesarean section, and 3rd degree should have an institutional delivery so that to prevent 4th degree tear in this pregnancy. Injury of the genital if and it may be have an history of an incontinence. In that case, you have to take the patient for immediate cesarean section. Injuries of the genital tract, vagina. So isolated vaginal tear can happen. Laceration without involvement of the perineum or cervix, following instrumental or manipulative delivery, associated with brisk hemorrhage. Sometimes there is no perineal tear. Okay, only there is a tear in the lateral vagina, very high, or in the lower vagina or in the high vagina, and it's only isolated vaginal tear in the lateral wall. It bleed like a hell. It's very difficult to manage that thing because it's not very approachable. If it's a high vaginal, it's not very easy to approach there. You have to explore the vagina and to find out the vessel which is bleeding. It's very difficult. Okay, sometimes we have to take the patient for in OT, in operation theatre, and do under general anesthesia because the bleeding is so high, patient is not very cooperative, it's very painful. Okay, so vaginal tears are not very good. It's sometimes very unapproachable area to manage. Exploration under general anesthesia with good light. Tears are repaired by interrupted or continuous suture. In addition to sutures, hemostasis may be achieved by intravaginal plugging by roller gauge. Sometimes the bleeding is so high up and we have to do hemostasis with sutures, but there is a still oozing from there. So what we have to do, we have to pack the vagina with the roller gauges and remove after 24 hours. Okay, remove after 24 hours and not more than 24 hours because the risk of sepsis is more. Sometimes the bleeding is so high that you are not able to control it. You have to what you will do, you have to do arterial embolization. But this arterial embolization is not available in every setups. So rupture of the vault of the vagina, colporaxis. What is colporaxis? It is the rupture of the vault of the vagina. What is vault of the vagina? That is as I told you, it is the part where the cervix and the vagina meet. That is the vault of the vagina and the posterior fornixes. Okay, time लगेगा 15-20 मिनट और. कितना बजा? 15 मिनट और. Any problem? Everybody can listening to me. Okay. So rupture of the vault of the vagina. What is the vault? I have told you. It is the part where the cervix and the posterior vaginal vault meet. That is the vault of the vagina. Okay. So it is the colporaxis. So when colporaxis is when the rupture of the vault of vagina happens, that is colporaxis, and this is the colpus. The vault is called the posterior fornicis is called the colpus. So it is the rupture of vault of the vagina is maybe primary, secondary, or is complete. Treatment to be vault close to the cervix. Repair is done from below. Tear extend high up left. See, if it is approachable to see and explore and suture from the below, then it's very easy and it's preferable when it is very high up. Okay, when it's very high up, then you have to do laparotomy. Because if it is injury, where it is injured, as I told you, it is the part where the cervix and the posterior vaginal wall meet. So when you do laparotomy, when you do laparotomy and doing laparotomy, you can separate the bladder from the uterus from above, and you can see the tear from above. Okay, in that case, how you do in laparotomy. Simultaneously with resuscitative measures. Resuscitative measure, because the bleeding is so much high, patient may collapse and may go in shock. Cervix. Commonest cause of traumatic postpartum hemorrhage is cervix. Commonest cause of when after the delivery of the baby or the placenta, you will see the bleeding is there is a heavy bleeding is coming out, and the uterus very taut, contracted and retracted. Then you have to think for the traumatic PPH. Then you have to explore the vagina. Okay, what are the causes? Iatrogenic, attempted forceps or breech. It's very common in case of forceps or breech extraction. Why it is very common? Why? Because sometime in a very hurry, in a very tachycardia, doctor's tachycardia actually, when there is a fetal distress and it is fully dilated and you have to deliver the baby as early as possible, what you will do? You apply forceps. Okay, but sometime with the SO hurry, you are not able to see that the full cervix is not fully dilated. So when you apply forceps, okay, forceps and push the baby, the cervix is not completely dilated and it got teared out. It can tear with the instrument also. It can tear during with a pull of force, with a sudden dilatation, a sudden pulling of the cervix. It can happen. Okay. So attempted forceps delivery or breech extension. Breech extension also, what happened? What happened during the delivery of breech? The buttocks are the soft part, and it does not got proper dilatation of the cervix. Okay, so the breech will the buttocks and the trunk will come out early as compared to before the full dilatation of the cervix. And what will happen? The head gets stuck over the cervix as it is not completely dilated, and to deliver the baby will pull the baby out. Okay, in that case, during the delivery, cervix can tear out. Rigid cervix, congenital or scar from previous operations, amputations, any conization like carcinoma cervix. Okay, there is any growth over the cervix, or there is a congenital scar sometimes or congenital scar, or in the previous normal delivery also there is a cervical tear which is repaired, then there is a scarring over the cervix. Or there is strong uterine contraction, there is a pushing, there is a precipitate labor in that case. Detachment, annular, how the cervix is detached. Detachment of cervix may be annular, which involve the entire circumference of cervix. You know the cervix, how it is look, it is a rounded. Okay, so when it may be tear from lateral part. Sometimes the cervix tear into two parts laterally, extend laterally to the 6 o'clock in a 6 o'clock and 3 o'clock position. That is a lateral. And annular, annular means the whole cervix, the circumferential, the cervix will tear out. This is more common in case of ventouse delivery. Circumferential cervical tear is more common in ventouse delivery, because when pulling the head with the ventouse, sometimes the part of the cervix come in that ventouse and got injured. Following prolonged labor in primary cervical dystocia. What is cervical dystocia? Cervical dystocia is when cervix not properly dilated. Okay, the cause is unknown. Usually because of the prolapse of uterus in a patient who has a history of prolapse, or a patient with a history of cervical chronic cervicitis or scarring of cervix. In these patients, cervical dystocia is more common. In that case, in the prolonged labor, even the patient is giving trial and she will deliver vaginally. In that case, cervix may tear. Anterior lip may involve only anterior lip when it is nipped between the head and symphysis pubis. Anterior lip of cervix is usually when between the head and the symphysis pubis. It's not very common. How it is diagnosed? Excessive vaginal bleeding immediately following delivery in presence of a hard and contracted uterus raise the suspicion of a traumatic bleeding. What are the dangers? Early danger, deep cervical tear हो सकता है, severe PPH होगा, broad ligament hematoma बन सकता है, pelvic cellulitis, thrombophlebitis, and late complications क्या हो सकते हैं? Ectropion. Ectropion, this is eversion of cervix. Cervix get everted. What is ectropion? Ectropion is eversion of the cervix. That is, as you know, the cervix is made of two layers, columnar epithelium inside and squamous epithelium outside. So ectropion, what happened? The cervix can pull outward. So the columnar epithelium is outside over the cervix, that is atropion. Cervical incompetence, as the cervical tear can happen, so late complications, cervix can the cervix causes incompetency, and the risk of abortion is more in these patients. Repaired soon after, what are the treatment? Repair soon after delivery. Repair soon after delivery. Repair should be done under general anesthesia. In lithotomy position with a good light. What are the prerequisites? Speculum. What you needed for cervical exploration to see for cervical tear? Speculum, retractors, 2 sponge holding forceps, and assistant. Okay. Now pelvic hematoma. Collection of blood anywhere in the area between the pelvic peritoneum and the perineal skin is called pelvic hematoma. It is infralevator hematoma, supralevator hematoma. Commonest one is vulval hematoma. Okay. Intralevator hematoma is what are the causes for infra and supralevator hematoma? So infralevator hematoma is improper hemostasis, failure to obliterate the dead space during episiotomy, repair of perineal tear, rupture of paravaginal venous plexus. Symptom: persistent severe pain on the perineal region. There may be rectal tenesmus or bearing down effort when extension occurs to the ischorectal fossa. What are the signs? Variable degree of shock. If there is hematoma is very big enough, then it causes shock. Local examination: tense swelling at the vulva. Treatment: small hematoma conservatively with cold compress. Larger hematomas explored in theatre under general anesthesia. Blood clots are to be scooped out and the bleeding points are to be secured. The dead space to be obliterated and Foley's catheter is inserted. Why Foley's catheter is inserted? To if there is bleeding, again there is a bleeding, then it comes out with Foley's catheter. Okay. So how you will treat this hematoma? If small hematoma, then you don't have to do anything conservatively. You have to just see, wait and watch and do cold compression. When it is large hematoma, explore in theatre under GA, remove all the clots, scoop out all the clots and secure the bleeding points. The dead space should be obliterated this time, otherwise there is risk of sepsis. Foley's catheter is inserted so that if there is more collection, then it comes out from Foley's. What are the causes of supralevator? Extension of cervical laceration, lower uterine segment rupture, spontaneous rupture of paravaginal venous plexus. Diagnose. How will you diagnose it? Unexplained shock with features of internal hemorrhage following delivery raises suspicion. Swelling above the inguinal ligament pushing uterus to the contralateral side. It is the supralevator. Okay. Vaginal examination: occlusion of the vaginal canal by a bulge. Vaginal canal by a bulge or bogey swelling felt through the fornices. When you do PV, go up to the fornices, you will see that there is a bulgeness. It is a supralevator type of. Okay. In the infralevator, you will see bulgeness over the gluteus muscle. In the buttock, you will feel there is a mass or there is a bogey swelling is there. Or you will do PV examination. In the lower part of vagina, you see the there is a bulgeness. Okay. In the infralevator part. In case of supralevator, it always a hematoma you feel at the tip of the fornices. Rectal examination mein what do you think? Bogey mass will we see. Okay, how will manage treatment of shock and laparotomy? Anterior leaf of the broad ligament peritoneum is incised and the blood clot is scooped out. Treatment of shock, laparotomy you have to do because it is higher side, high type, so you have to open the abdomen. Anterior leaf of the broad ligament peritoneum is incised and the blood clot is scooped out. Random blind sutures should not be placed to prevent ureteric damage. Tie the anterior division of internal iliac. In this case, you have to explore the internal iliac artery and tie the uterine artery branch. Okay. A rupture of uterus. Disruption in the continuity of all the uterine layer, that is endometrium, myometrium and serosa, any time beyond 28 weeks of pregnancy is called rupture of uterus. So perforation and rupture of a rudimentary pregnant horn. These are the types. Okay. Incidence 1 in 2000 to 1 in 200 deliveries. Scar rupture following increased incidence of C-section over the year. What are the risk factors? Spontaneous during pregnancy is very rare, but it can happen in multigravida in a periphery where unmonitored normal delivery, they are trying for normal delivery without any proper monitoring. Okay, causes previous damage to the uterine walls, dilatation and curettage or manual removal of placenta, grand multipara, congenital malformations, cochlear uterus. Cochlear uterus what is cochlear? It happens in case of abruption when there is retroplacental hematoma. It get cochlear retroplacental hematoma collection. Retroplacental blood collection is there. Okay, which causes blood collection in the uterus. It causes cochlear uterus. Okay, usually complete involve upper segment later month of pregnancy में होता है ये. Obstructive rupture end result of an obstructive labor. Non-obstructive में grand multipara, usually in early labor, involve the fundal area and is complete. Okay. In grand multipara, what happened? If you give a trial in a case of big size baby, then what happened? Usually the fundal area get ruptured. Okay, and it's always a complete rupture. Scar rupture incidence, lower segment scar rupture is about 1 to 2%. Okay, but in case of classical scar or hysterotomy, it is 5 to 10 times higher. That is 8%. Actually, average around 8%. So during pregnancy, classical cesarean hysterotomy scar is likely to give way during later month of pregnancy. Even in case of classical cesarean hysterotomy, history of hysterotomy, or even case of myomectomy, where the endometrium is during the removal of fibroid, we have to enter the endometrium. In that case also, it is equivalent to hysterotomy. So in these patients, we usually do elective cesarean section around at 37 to 38 weeks. In case of classically, you used to do cesarean in case of at 36 weeks of pregnancy, because they have very high chances of rupture, a silent rupture in these patients in last month of pregnancy. During labor, the classical hysterotomy scar or corneal resection for ectopic pregnancy is more vulnerable to rupture during labor, as I told you. Or iatrogenic or traumatic. During pregnancy, use of oxytocin does not cause rupture, but use of uncontrolled, unmonitored oxytocin cause rupture. Prostaglandins, misoprostol, like prostaglandin like subeprim gel used for induction, or misoprostol. Misoprostol, if you are not able to properly monitor, it causes more chances of rupture in case of misoprost tablets. Possible external versions you usually do in breech presentations or in transverse lie. Fall or blow on the abdomen if patient has a history of accident, in that case. During labor, internal podilic version किया आपने in case of second twin. Okay, internal podilic version is only indicated in second twin in delivery. Okay, in a twin pregnancy. Destructive operation, it is now abundant now. Previously, in case of IUDs, destructive operations usually done, and the chances of rupture is more. So that's why, because of this, now it is already abundant. Manual removal of placenta. What happened in manual removal of placenta? Manual removal of placenta is done under general anesthesia. Okay, so uterus is already relaxed. That case, so when you manually insert your hand and remove the placenta, in case of increta or percreta, that is placenta is invaded in the muscle part of uterus, and you try to remove it, and in that case, increta percreta, what happened? It will not remove. It cause perforation of the uterus. It will cause perforation of the uterus, and uterus will come out with the placenta. So in that case, perforation, rupture of the uterus can happen. Forceps or breech extension in incompletely dilated cervix. Okay. Injudicious administration of oxytocin. Types: complete and incomplete rupture, depending whether the peritoneal cord is involved or not. If peritoneal cord is involved, it's complete rupture. If not, then incomplete. Rupture of lower segment scar. Incomplete rupture is more common in case of rupture of lower segment scar, extension of a cervical tear into the lower segment, as we have learned in the perineal tear. Complete rupture, disruption of the scar in upper segment, Spontaneous rupture of both obstructive and non-obstructive. Incomplete rupture usually occur in obstructive type. Spontaneous non-obstructive ruptures involve the upper segment and often involve the fundus. Obstructive. See, spontaneous non-obstructive rupture maybe happen in case of dilatation and curettage also. In case of DNC, the risk of rupture uterus is more common if it is not properly managed and not properly skilled, done by a not properly skilled person. Then the risk of rupture of uterus and at the fundus site is more common. Obstructive type involves the anterior lower segment transversely. May involve the cervix and vaginal wall. The bladder may be involved at times. Rupture over the previous scar. Rent over the lower segment scar may extend to one or both the side involving the major branches of the uterine vessels. Traumatic rupture after destructive operations is similar to that met in spontaneous obstructive variety. Scar dehiscence disruption. What is scar dehiscence? It is a disruption of the part of the scar. The fetal membrane is intact. When the fetal membrane is intact, it is called scar dehiscence. When fetal membrane is ruptured and the baby comes out, it is the rupture of uterus. Okay, bleeding is minimal in case of scar dehiscence because only there is a silent separation of the uterine lower part of the uterine segment. Usually it happens in case of previous scar. Scar rupture, disruption of the entire length, complete separation of all layer, rupture of the membrane, bleeding, the uterine cavity and predicament become continuous. Fetus in incomplete rupture. In incomplete rupture, fetus and placenta can intact, but in complete rupture, fetus and placenta will come outside the uterus and it is in the abdomen and the baby usually died. If you deliver within 5 minutes, baby can survive, but if it is more than 5 minutes, the baby will not survive. Prognosis depends on manner in which labor is managed, type of rupture, morbid pathological changes and effective management. Manner labor is managed. So prognosis is usually if the patient is in monitoring, we are monitoring the patient, and as in case of previous scar, you are giving vaginal birth after VBAC to the patient, and you are properly managed, and you are seeing the sign and symptoms of rupture. What are the sign and symptoms in case of previous scar? In case of previous scar, if there is a scar rupture, there will be a fetal distress. There is sudden dip in the fetal heart sound. Second, the patient complain of sudden give way, okay, and there is hematuria. Okay, these are the signs which can. The most earliest sign is the fetal distress. Okay, so if you are monitoring, proper monitoring, then earliest you will take the patient to the OT and do laparotomy, then you can survive the patient. What are the type of rupture? If it is incomplete rupture, the risk is less. Incomplete rupture, the risk of shock and blood loss is more. Morbid pathological changes and effective management. Okay, 20% of or more maternal deaths are there in case of rupture. What are the causes for death? Hemorrhage, shock and sepsis. What are the late sequelae? Intestinal obstruction, scar rupture and subsequent pregnancies. So scar rupture, classical or hysterectomy. What are the symptoms you will get when there is a classical or hysterectomy rupture? Scar rupture will be there. Dull abdominal pain, slight vaginal bleeding, tenderness on uterine palpation, fetal sound may be irregular, absent. There is a sense of something giving way accompanied by acute abdominal pain and collapse. In which patients you will get spontaneous rupture in uninjured uterus, like in high-PRS women. In acute type, diagnosis established the presence of feature of shock, acute tenderness on abdominal examination, palpation of superficial fetal part, abscess of fetal heart, confused with concealed accidental hemorrhage or rectal sheath hematoma. Okay. Rupture following fall, blow or external version or use of oxytocin. There is a history of such an accident followed by acute pain in abdomen, slight vaginal bleeding. It is done, confirmation done only by laparotomy and too often confused with accidental hemorrhage. सो ड्यूरिंग लेबर अगर स्कार रप्चर है तो क्लासिकल हिस्टेरेक्टमी स्कार रप्चर हो सकता है, लोअर सेगमेंट स्कार रप्चर जो हो सकते हैं या तो इंसिडियस हो सकते हैं, इट इज़ कन्फर्म ओनली बाय लेप्रोटमी, फीचर स्कार रप्चर आर नॉट एज ड्रामेटिक, साइलेंट रप्चर्स हो सकते हैं, ठीक है। जो स्पॉन्टेनियस ऑब्स्ट्रक्टिव रप्चर होते हैं वो डिस्टिंक्ट प्रीमॉनिटरी फेसेस होते हैं उसमें, जबकि जो साइलेंट रप्चर जो कि स्पॉन्टेनियस नॉन ऑब्स्ट्रक्टिव होते हैं वो साइलेंट रप्चर्स होते हैं। सो स्पॉन्टेनियस ऑब्स्ट्रक्टिव रप्चर जो होते हैं वो डिस्टिंक्ट प्रीमॉनिटरी फेस प्रायर टू रप्चर होते हैं। व्हाट आर द प्रीमॉनिटरी फेस इन दीज पेशेंट्स? दे यूजली मल्टीपेरा होते हैं हु इज इन लेबर विद फीचर्स ऑफ ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन, द पेशेंट विल बी डिहाइड्रेटेड, एग्जॉस्टेड, tachycardia will be there, high temperature. On abdominal examination reveal tender lower segment, Bender's ring will be there as I have told you in obstetrical labor. On PV examination there is a jammed presenting part will be there, and it is the vaginal wall is edematous, dry and hot. Sense of something, what is the face? It has a face of rupture, some sense of something giving way at the height of uterine contraction. Constant pain changes to dull aching pain and cessation of uterine contraction. So typical history will patient will give, there is a pain will go on. Patient will give, there is so much of pains are there, but now there is no pain. On general examination you feel features of exhaustion and shock. Sudden deterioration of general condition will be there. Exploration of uterus to feel the rent, confirm the diagnosis. Shortening of the cord immediately following a difficult vaginal delivery is pathognomic of uterine rupture. Means there is always lengthening of cord when there is a separation of the placenta, but there is a shortening of the cord after delivery of baby if there is a rupture of uterus. Abdominal examination reveals superficial fetal parts in case of rupture of uterus. In case of obstructive rupture of uterus, when there is a sudden patient give history of sudden give way, the pain will go off, patient will be exhausted. In that case, when you do abdominal examination, there is a superficial fetal parts you feel, there is no fetal heart sounds, uterine contour will be absent, you can't feel proper uterine contour, two separate swelling on contracted fetal. There is a two separate swelling you will see. There is a fetal part I feel, that is when there is a fetus and when there is a uterus. Uterus will be ruptured and get contracted and will be laterally placed. So when you palpate, you will feel a two bogey feeling. There is one is the fetal parts, fetal head, and other is the uterus. On vaginal examination, reveal recession of the presenting part will initially the present part will be down. Okay, if there is a rupture, the head will go up. If when you do PV examination, you feel that the head is gone very high, or there is only flabby cervix is only on doing PV examination. You feel the cervix which is very flabby. Like there is no dilatation, it's a flabby cervix, like leathery flabby cervix. Varying degree of bleeding will be there. What prophylaxis you will do to prevent rupture of uterus? At-risk mother should have mandatory hospital delivery, contracted pelvis हो, previous history of scar हो, uncorrected transverse lie, grand multipara हो, known case of hydrocephalus of baby हो. General anesthesia should not be used, give undue force in external version, undue delay in progress of labor. You have to monitor the patient with particular, if there is a delay and you think that it will not deliver, don't give so much of time. Management of rupture uterus, judicious selection of cases for vaginal delivery, oxytocin infusion either for induction or augmentation, labor, internal protective version never to be done obstructed labor, it's not usually done, but internal protection is only now indicated only in second twin pregnancy during labor. Attempted forced delivery or breech extension through incompletely dilated cervix. Destructive vaginal operation should be performed by skilled personnel only. Manual removal of placenta in morbidly adherent. Manual removal in morbid adherent placenta should be done by senior person. Usually, manual removal of placenta is done by only done by consultants in anywhere, and not in the private practice, but in case of medical colleges, it is done only by senior consultants. Treatment: resuscitation, laparotomy, hysterectomy. In case of surgery for ruptured uterus, we have to see if you are able to salvage the uterus or not. If the bleeding is so much, the bleeding is very high, and you are not able to properly do hemostasis, in that case, to save the patient, you have to decide what you have to do as early as possible to save the patient. So in that case, if in case of spontaneous non-obstructive rupture, the rupture is usually fundal or upper segment and is complete. So in that case, to save the uterus is very difficult. In that case, we have to do hysterectomies. In case of scar rupture, the rupture is always from the scar side, so there is a very clean cut rupture. If it extends to the lateral sides, okay, to the uterine arteries, and the hemostasis is difficult to do hemostasis, in that case we do total or subtotal hysterectomies. How it repair? Applicable to a scar rupture where the margins are clean cut. So repair is done by excision of the margins, can do. And always, if you are doing if you are salvaging or you are saving the uterus in case of rupture, always do sterilization. You have to do bilateral tubal ligation in these patients. So broad ligament hematoma, what we will do in case of broad ligament hematoma? If there is a rupture of uterus and the tear will extend to the lateral side, it injure the uterine arteries and cause broad ligament hematomas. What we will do? Open the anterior leaf, scoop out the blood clot, secure the bleeding points. Okay. Bladder injuries. Bladder injuries are usually happens with the rupture uterus. Separate bladder injuries are very rare. So in case of bladder, what are the causes? Traumatic instrumental-vaginal delivery, destructive operations, forceps delivery and abdominal operations. Sloughing fistula can cause. In case of obstructive delivery, sometime fistula can, vesicovaginal fistula happen after some time. Traumatic fistula, how will manage it? Immediate local repair is preferable. If in unfavorable condition, catheter for 10 to 14 days. Antiseptics, favorable condition, spontaneous closure हो जाता है. If it is obstructive type of, in case of obstruction and you have delivered by cesarean section, even then in these cases, when you think that the bladder is very edematous and the chances of fistula is more, in these patients you will keep the catheter for 14 days, sometimes for 21 days also, to spontaneous healing of the bladder mucosa, and it prevents fistula formation. If the fistula will happen, then you have to repair it after 3 months. Spontaneous non-obstructive rupture to high Paris women. The height of uterine contraction suddenly ceased with an agonizing bursting pain following relief cessation of contraction. It is a spontaneous, I have told you about that is the previous scar rupture and the obstructive type. This is spontaneous non-obstructive rupture. What are the features? Presence of shock, internal hemorrhage, tenderness of the uterus and varying amount of vaginal bleeding. Rectal injuries. It is rare in obstetrics. Repair postponed for at least 3 months. Urethra traumatic resulting from instrumental delivery. Principle of management similar to bladder injury, that is, if it is bladder injury is immediate, then you have to keep the catheter for 21 days, and if it is late fistula formation, then you have to repair after 3 months. Any questions you have to ask? There's actually very long topics are there, so it's very difficult to cover up everything. Any questions? I think last topic you are not able to understand properly. Anyone is there? Okay. Already 5 बज चुके हैं. ठीक है. Okay, thank you, ma'am. So there is no questions, okay. But that is the last topic, that is injury to the genital tract and injury to the birth canal, or the injury to the birth canal.